guys, welcome back to episode 18 of Play Like a Girl. I'm your host, Gianna Cambria, and I'm excited to say that with us this week we have Lizzie Melvin from Regis University, and she is a cross-country athlete. Hi, Lizzie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. I'm so happy that Brooke mentioned you to me because I was excited when I looked you up.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So the first question I want to start off with was, how did you get into cross country?
So I was an athlete in life. I grew up with soccer, softball, basketball, kind of like all the basic ones that like everybody does. And I actually was really interested in soccer growing up. I did Premier Leagues, travel leagues, played for school. So I was super into soccer, but then obviously being a contact sport, and I was a pretty small kid growing up, so I got into a lot of injuries. Particularly concussions was kind of the biggest thing. I ended up getting 3 really bad concussions through soccer, but continued playing through high school. So our high school track coach was also the soccer coach. So I originally started off just doing track to stay in shape for soccer during the off season, and then kind of really got interested in it really quickly. I got really good really fast without really putting in much work. So it's kind of like an interesting thing. And then after my sophomore year of high school, I really got interested in distance running. I was really focusing on the 800, the 2 mile, and I kind of sat down with my coach and realized that doing cross country would be more beneficial for me, especially looking into doing college sports.
Okay. Well, would you say that your favorite sport in high school was cross country, or did you like soccer more?
Yeah, I definitely liked cross country. So I started doing cross country my junior year. I did it junior and senior year, and I honestly wish, looking back, that I'd done it for more years because honestly so fun. I just loved the environment of the team. I loved doing it. I really fell in love with doing it. And it was a great way to stay in shape and give me something to do. But yeah, cross country was definitely, and I would say I liked cross country more than track too. Cross country was definitely always.
Definitely, no, I feel you. But were you a little nervous starting at your junior year because you didn't start as a freshman like everyone else?
Oh yeah, I was definitely super nervous. I also, like I said, I did some distance running my freshman and sophomore year, but I was doing like the 800, the 2 mile. So I had never even run 3 miles straight. And then when I found out I had to compete like a race pace, the fastest you're ever running, 3.1 miles, I was like, that's crazy. I'm not even gonna be able to do it. So I honestly did it to start off. And originally my goal was that I was gonna use cross country to just like build up some more endurance for track, but I never thought that I'd be good at cross country. I literally thought I was gonna be able to make it. So
Oh my God, no, that's crazy. So I remember we were talking before and you told me you have siblings. Would you say that any of them have influenced you, or your parents have influenced you, or have some coaches had an influence on the way that you've played?
Yeah, definitely. So my older brother was 2 years ahead of me. So when I was a freshman, he was a junior, and he did cross all 4 years of high school and was really good at it, which I would say honestly is one of the reasons why I was like, oh no, I'm just gonna play soccer. I don't want to do cross country because I didn't want to be on the same team as him. Everyone's gonna compare us, like whatever. So that was one of the reasons why junior year, then I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot because like he was gone, so it was just gonna be me there. So I feel like that kind of, but he definitely seeing how much he liked it and enjoyed it, and he was really close with all the team. And then just kind of through that, I already knew everybody a little bit, so I felt a little bit more included in the team already. And then my younger brother also does it, so he was a freshman when I was a senior, so we got to the team together, which was super fun getting to do it together. My youngest brother is 10 years old, so we'll see if he gets interested in it. But I come from a huge family of runners. On my mom's side, all my aunts and uncles and everybody, I have a ton of cousins that did cross country in college. And then I would say my high school cross country coach definitely had an impact on me staying in it. Like I said, I originally just started doing it for fun. I didn't think anything of it. I really never thought that I would be able to run cross country in college. I was just planning on doing track in college.
Yeah.
But I had one coach junior year. She ended up leaving at the end of junior year. But even just that one season I had with her made such an impact on me. And then the coach that was our assistant coach junior year became our head coach senior year. And he honestly just made me fall in love with it, gave me so much confidence. And I definitely would not still be doing it today without him.
Yeah. Well, that's great having such a relationship with your coaches and your family, getting into that sport. If it wasn't for my brother and my sister, I wouldn't have gotten into the sport that I was playing because my brother grew up on the ice. And when I was younger, I wanted to be like, oh my God, I want to play hockey like my brother. But I didn't play hockey. I actually went into figure skating. But if it wasn't for being at the rink for literally 12 hours a day, I wouldn't have done the sport. So I agree with you on that one. So let's talk a little bit about Regis. How is it being a student athlete there?
I honestly love it. I could not picture myself in college in general, but definitely not at Regis without being a student athlete. I remember the first time, I also wouldn't have even found Regis if I wasn't an athlete because my high school coach actually went there. So when I was going through the recruiting process senior year, he actually, because I had visited so many schools, just didn't like any of them, like wasn't seeing myself at any of them. And he knew that I wanted to go into exercise science, which is huge at Regis, especially being in the Boston area. So like, why don't you just go give it a shot? Like, I'll give the coach a call. And I honestly went there expecting to hate it. I was like, whatever, like, I'm just doing this as a favor to him because he went there. And I ended up absolutely loving it. And I think it just makes it so much more fun being a college athlete. I feel like more people on campus. At Regis, there's a huge population of student athletes. A lot of people do go there for sports. So you just get to meet so many more people. Some of my best friends, all my roommates that I live with, I met on the team. My boyfriend I met on the team. Like, I have so many friends there, so it really just makes it so much more fun.
Oh, that's great though. So when you went in as a freshman, was it hard to get used to the schedule?
Yeah, I would say definitely the schedule was tough. But it wasn't as hard as I was expecting to. I feel like it also kind of gave me a little bit more of a schedule than I would have had if I wasn't an athlete because you're almost forced to do your stuff on time. You're on such a strict schedule. A lot of times we have 2 a day. Sometimes we only have 1 practice, but it'll go for 3 to 4 hours. So really the time that you have when you're not in class or not in practice or not eating a meal is so limited that you have to be doing your work. We also have a study hall, which is really common in a lot of college sports for freshman year. So you have 2 hours a week where you have to go sit in that study hall. So you might as well do your homework because there's nothing else to do. So I feel like it kind of helped me stay grounded a little bit more and kind of gave me a little bit more focus.
Yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from. When I was talking to other student athletes on the podcast before, they told me that their team literally makes their school schedule for them so they can fit it around practices, meets, or games. Is it the same way at Regis?
Yeah, we get all of our stuff approved by our coaches, and then it's pretty much make your schedule, meet your classes, and then your internships go through. So everything kind of goes all together.
Is it hard to like juggle school with an internship and being your major along with just your meets and everything?
I personally always preferred it. I'm the type of person where I need to be really busy and on a strict schedule. Otherwise, I'm gonna start slacking off. So I even found that like last semester when we came home from COVID and I didn't have sports, I was like, I don't know what to do all this with all this free time. So then I found myself pushing my assignments off because I was like, I know for a fact that I'll have this time to do them that I would never have before. Whereas at school, when you have sports and internship and classes and meets and all these things, like meets go the entire Saturday, you're in a different state. So it's like you take that completely out of the running, you're already down a whole day of the week. You have practice all day, so it's like Sundays were the one day where you would really have to sit down and focus, and then every other day it's like little hours there. So it's I personally like it a lot.
For sure. Well, speaking about COVID, how has it affected the women's cross country schedule for you guys?
It definitely had a huge impact on it. So this past fall, we actually didn't get to go back to campus. So we're all home. So we didn't have any competition, any practices, anything like that, which was super challenging. I know for me, especially just with running, obviously cross country was something that we're lucky enough that you could do that every single day without being on campus. You know, you don't really need a ton of equipment. You don't need a ton of stuff. You can just go out and run every day. But it's so different. It's like having to go and do these runs by yourself. It's so mentally challenging instead of like, I would go to practice every single day, and instead of just going for a run, like I'm just talking with my friends, like we're laughing, we're having a good time. Like it doesn't even feel like you're doing the mileage. Whereas being home, you really have to convince yourself to do it. It's the same kind of thing where instead of having to go to a practice where you have your coaches there and you know that you have to be on time and you have to do this, this, and this, it's like nobody's sitting there telling you you have to do this, you have to show up at this time. So it definitely puts on another aspect of self-discipline, which I feel like kind of went away a little bit because I had so many other people putting so much discipline on me when I was at school. So it kind of put it back onto myself. But it's definitely been super challenging. So we're really hoping to get back on campus soon. Fingers crossed we should be back there this spring. And I don't really know what I can say about it because I don't know it's finalized. But hopefully we should be able to do at least some practicing. And then hopefully for senior year, we're able to get back into competing.
So you literally haven't gone to campus once since last year.
Yeah, the last time we were there was last spring.
And you guys had all classes online?
Yes.
Wow. Oh my God. I don't know what I would have done. Like, luckily enough, we were here for like September until they canceled classes right before Thanksgiving. But
Yeah.
that's crazy.
It definitely was really challenging. It even gave like the same kind of thing where with being on campus, we always have our coaches know our entire schedule. Our coaches are in contact with our professors every single day. So it's like skipping classes is not a thing. You can never do that. Like you're 5 minutes late to a class and all of a sudden your coach is texting you because she knows about it. So whereas like you're home and it's like, oh, everything's on Zoom. Like I just have to log into this class. Like I can be 20 minutes late. Like I could skip this class. Or like it's just kind of like this weird thing where you like don't even know what day of the week it is because you have schedule and there's nothing like structured. So it definitely was super challenging, but
I like didn't even want to wake up the days where I had my online classes. I was like, no way. But
yeah.
I mean, I did. But it's so hard to cope with it. Like you're used to getting up, going to class, getting your whole routine done, and now you're just stuck on a couch the entire day.
Yeah, it definitely made me appreciate the routine. I know definitely there's sometimes, especially towards like the end of the semester, because like I said, I do cross country, indoor track, and outdoor track, so I'm in season all year long, all 3 seasons. There was definitely times towards the end where I would be like, I'm just sick of having to go to practice every single day, sick of never having any free time. Like I would see all my other friends who like don't do college sports, like getting to do whatever they want on the weekends, and I would be so jealous. But definitely being home from COVID, I feel like gave me a whole new appreciation for having sports. Like I can't wait to be back with my team. I can't wait to have a schedule. I can't wait to have everything lined up for me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what's one thing that you miss the most from the pre-COVID seasons?
I would say the one thing that I miss the most is just honestly being with my teammates and getting to just like do the thing that I love with all these other people who love it just as much. I feel like being home, even now when I'm doing my runs every single day, like I said, it's like so much more difficult having to convince yourself to go and do it. Whereas there, I didn't even think twice about it. Or I sit down and like, oh, 5 miles, like that sucks. And I have to go run for 40 minutes by myself. Like, what am I going to do to keep myself occupied? Whereas like at school, it'd be like, oh, 5 miles, like we're already done with it. Like I wish we could keep running because like we're just talking, laughing. Like all my best friends are on that team. So
Well, yeah, honestly, having your like such a bond with athletes, but also, they kind of like become your sisters, which is, it just makes the experience so much better. Well, I have another question about COVID.
Mhm.
When I was speaking to the other athletes that came on my podcast, student athletes, they were telling me that because of COVID and how much it's affected their season, even just from first semester of this new year, they haven't really had the chance to get to know the new members of their team or like the freshmen. Do you feel like you have the same situation?
Yeah, it's definitely been super tough. Not only just meeting the new freshmen that are supposed to be on our team right now, but I found that recruiting has been so difficult for us to do. We're lucky enough that our coaches really took control of it as soon as we got sent home last spring. So we've been really good about having online meetings. So obviously we do as much as we can. It's definitely hard because you can only learn so much about somebody from a Zoom meeting, and like obviously it's not the same as like hanging out with them in person. And like you said, like we're with these people 24/7. Like we every single our meals together. Our schedules are all exactly the same pretty much. Like when we're in class, everybody's in class. We're at practice together. So like these people become your family, like without you even meaning to, because you're spending time with them. It definitely has been really tough, and I do feel so bad for all the freshmen. I know a couple of them have even reached out saying like, I don't know what to do. Like I just feel so like outcast from this program, like so like on the outs. And it's like as soon as you get on campus, I promise you're gonna feel so different because it's so different being on campus than off campus. But it definitely is tough, and there's definitely a disconnect. And then same thing with trying to recruit. It's so hard to get people to come and be a part of your program, and we're trying to obviously build our program when it's so difficult because all they're seeing is pretty much the exact thing from every single school because everybody can only do so much on Zoom calls. So.
Yeah. Where I don't even know what I would do if I was a freshman coming into a new sport during this year. Just a freshman in general during COVID would have been crazy. And it does suck because, like you said, it is like your family is getting torn away from you, which is just a horrible feeling altogether.
It's tough too because for us, we would move on campus early in the fall. So we're there for 2 weeks before anybody else even comes on. And for one of those weeks, we actually go away on like a team trip. So by the time you come back, like I remember after those first 2 weeks, my freshman year, we literally all were together 24/7, like already knew each other, like we were already all friends.
Yeah.
So freshmen who like haven't even met us in person before, to think like it's just so different for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, the last question that I have about COVID is, how have you coped with being home the whole time? Because, like you said, you used to run 5 miles used to be easy for you with your friends. How have you just dealt with that?
It's definitely been super mentally draining. I feel like in the beginning, I feel like it kind of started off really high because we were just coming off of spring. We'd been practicing for all of fall, all of winter season. We had just finished up our winter season, so I was pretty much at like my peak of fitness, peak of training. So I feel like in the spring, going into the summer was super easy. I was like, oh, this is fine. Like I'm just gonna train on my own for a little bit, like I would for normal summer training. And then even summer training was kind of the same thing. It didn't really feel any different than it normally would. But definitely as soon as the fall hit and I realized that I wasn't going to be going back on campus and I realized that there was 3, 4, 5 months at least until I was even going to be back on campus practicing with other people, let alone doing any competing, I feel like that was super tough. Also to know that you just kind of have to keep on training and keep up your fitness every single day for you don't even know. At the time in September, I thought that we would be competing by now going into January, and now to find out that it's maybe going to be next fall. So it just kind of keeps on getting pushed back. So it's definitely very mental. Like I said, I'm lucky enough to have a really good support system for my team. I do talk to a lot of my teammates on a pretty much daily basis. We have a lot of team calls. My coaches have been there for me. And then just in general, I have a very good support system. I have a really great group of friends, whether they're my teammates from school. Like I said, all my roommates are my teammates. But I also have a really good support system from high school. All of my friends from high school that were home with me this semester or ones that went back to their schools were really supportive. I have a really great boyfriend, a really great family. So I've just had a really good support system, but it's tough. So.
Well, that's great. Talking about like the whole mental aspect, we're going to get into that after our commercial break. So we'll be back with you guys shortly. Hi guys, we are on episode 18 of Play Like a Girl and we're with Lizzie Melvin. We were just talking about how playing sports is so mental. So I know you talked to me about an injury that you recently had. Can you get a little bit more into that?
Yeah, so I actually had 2 pretty big injuries through my college career. So the first one I actually got the very end of my senior season of high school. So I actually went into college kind of dealing with it. I took the last 2 track seasons of my high school career off, kind of get ready for college and kind of fix that injury up a little bit. But I did go into freshman year kind of still dealing with that and dealing with kind of all of the repercussions from that. So that really impacted my freshman season, and I definitely kind of messed me up mentally a little bit because I mean everybody says like you go from high school athletics to college athletics, and the biggest that in high school pretty much everybody that's going into college was the big fish at their high school. They were super good, they were one of the best, they were all state, all that stuff. And that's definitely how I was always really good in high school without even having to put in like a ton of work. It really just came very naturally to me. And then all of a sudden I was going into college where nobody knew me, nobody knew my reputation. All this stuff from high school didn't really matter. Like nobody cared that I was Connecticut All-State at this Massachusetts school. And then to put onto that, it was a fractured kneecap, or dislocated kneecap that I was working through senior year of high school. So I was going into freshman year of college with that. And then that kind of played a role, I feel like, not only in my training freshman year, but then also my confidence. And then during cross freshman year, I then also ended up with a tear in my hip that came as a result of kind of trying to make up for the fact that I was dealing with all this pain in my knee. So I was kind of trying to like put a little bit of the pain off, and then it just messed up my mechanics and ended up doing that. So I feel like that kind of started my college career off on a really bad note. Definitely messed me up confidence-wise, and I feel like that's something that I kind of had to work through all of freshman year. It made my training super difficult. I spent a ton of time at the trainers, a ton of time at doctors, and definitely just kind of got really down on myself, kind of was questioning, like, should I even be here right now? Like, do I even deserve to be here right now? Like, there's all these people that are super good. And, like, I kind of discounted everything else that had happened in the past. And I was like, I'm just not as good as any of these people. So that was really tough. And then kind of got through it. And then freshman into sophomore year summer, just worked super, super hard, focused a ton on my training. So then came in sophomore year cross country, and first meet of the season had a huge PR by like over a minute, which in cross country is like super unheard of. You really PR by like seconds here and there, but like to take full minutes off is like not really a thing at all. And from there, just kept on going every meet of the season and would PR the season by, again, minutes. So by the end of the season, I had taken like 6 minutes off of my freshman PR, had a season. But just kind of from all that mental stuff that I was dealing with freshman year, of just kind of feeling like, oh, am I good enough to be here? Like, do I deserve to be here? Kind of like almost put too much pressure on myself. I had a lot of outside pressure on myself. Like, there was a ton of people watching me, a ton of people being like, oh, like, she's doing all these great things. Like, when's she gonna like plateau, or like when's it gonna like stop, or like is she just gonna continue to get better? Like, she's only a sophomore. So I kind of had a lot of pressure on myself, which kind of started to play a role mentally. So then I was just so focused on like, what can I do more? What can I do more? Like, how can I put more into my training? How can I put more into my nutrition? All this stuff, and kind of stopped taking care of myself mentally and just kind of focused so much on the physical aspect, which I feel like is where a lot of people find the disconnect. Like, you really are not ever going to be the best you can physically if you're not the best you are mentally, and that's kind of what happened to me. So then indoor, I got to the point where I started off really, really strong, was doing really well in the first couple of meets, and then was just putting so much pressure on myself that then my time started to show it. I started to get worse and just got more frustrated, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. So that is one thing that I did feel like is kind of taking the good out of COVID, was that it gave me the opportunity to kind of take a step back, because it really did get to the point where I was like, I don't even know if I want to keep doing this anymore. Like, I'm miserable at meets. I'm miserable when I'm running. Like, I don't even like it anymore because I'm just putting so much stress on myself. But with COVID, I was able to step back and really see, like, remember this is like why I like to do it. And it kind of took away the times, took away like the competing. Nobody was talking about conference, nobody was talking about anything. It was just about running and being in shape and having fun with it. So I really was able to find my love for it again. So I'm really excited back in to finally get back into competing now with a better mindset.
That's great though. I mean, talking to not only you, but I've had so many people on this show who have talked to me about like how much being a female athlete is like so in your head, how much of a mental game it can be. And I feel like a lot of girls have that problem, whether their sport is wrestling, cross country, skating, like no matter whoever it is, whatever they do. I just feel like being a female athlete puts so much pressure on them because they have all eyes on who they are and they want to put on such a good show for everybody, and they don't know what to do, and they just keep beating themselves up in the head.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had to give one piece of advice to like younger cross country people or like younger female athletes in general about being in your head or getting out of your head, what would you say to them?
I would say the number one thing, and I wish that I could go back to the beginning of my sophomore year and tell myself this, because I think I would have had such a different experience sophomore year, is that at the end of the day, you just have to remember why you're doing this sport. And you just have to remember that at the end of the day, when you first started doing this, like when I first started cross country, like I said, I was doing it for fun. Like, I didn't even think that I'd be able to make it through the race. I was just doing it because I had all these friends on the team, and I just wanted to do it for fun. I never thought I would be doing it in college. I never thought that any of that stuff would matter. I never worried about my PRs. I couldn't even tell you what my PRs in high school were. I couldn't tell you where I placed for states and things like that. So I would just say, just remember why you started doing it. And as long as you have that love for the sport, like that is the number one thing. Like, just forget about everything else. And also don't focus on what everybody else is thinking. Because at the end of the day, everybody else is going to be focused on themselves. Nobody's going to care what you're doing. And if they do, then like, that's weird. Like, nobody should care. So
I definitely agree. Yeah, somebody just commented that sports gave them the like best confidence that they've ever had in their life. Would you say that you agreed with that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I definitely feel like, especially on times when I've like had good experiences, and like right now, I would say like I'm the most confident I've ever been, and the best I ever have mentally and physically, and that's because of cross country. It's because of running.
Yeah, that's great. Even I'll say when I used to compete, I used to be so terrified, and I would like step on the ice and my hands would start shaking, and I would be like, I felt like I was having a panic attack, because sometimes you go into an arena with that like hundreds of people and I didn't know what to do, but I would just look like to my left and to my right and see my teammates there, and I'd be like, okay, they're doing this with me. We're a team, and like I'll get through this not only with myself, but I'll get through this with my team.
Right.
A great, like, that's just great mind space to have, you know.
As far as like things to do, like when like if you find yourself like getting stressed out. I know one huge thing that I always do is just kind of like imagine myself and like think of all the people that make me happy, or like think of the things that make me happy. So like I would always think back to like the really fun runs that I would have in high school, and then like that would make me relax more. Like I think of my friends, my family, and like that helps me relax so much more. But you just have to remember why you do it and why you're loving it.
Yeah, definitely. I have two last questions. One of them is, I know you mentioned like bus rides with your team and how fun those can be. I know I had like a blast on mine. What would you say one of your best memories or favorite memories is from just doing your sport all together?
Altogether, my favorite memories are probably our team trip that we do when we go away. We would go to Stowe, Vermont every single year, and it would honestly just be so fun. Like it's like a sleepover every single night with like your 40 best friends.
Yeah.
Games like this past year, somebody brought like their Nintendo Switch. We were all just like playing. We do cabins, so there's like 4 other girls with you in your cabin, and that's like literally just so fun to get to do those. And then my other favorite memory, I would say, is probably just like all of the little things in between competitions. So like just sitting, getting to talk with all your friends and stuff like that, or like getting to prep together, or like I would have literally the best time ever when we would do like our pre-race warm-up runs. Like those would always be so fun, like laughing, joking. We'd be like, yep, like this is gonna stink, like this is gonna be such a hard race, like look at that hill over there, we have to go run up that 3 times. But like it'd just be so much fun just like being with your teammates and being with your friends.
Oh yeah, it's funny you say that because I remember like our pre-workouts before softball games, and we would just be throwing the ball to each other, and we'd be playing a difficult team where our coaches would arrive and they'd be like, you guys aren't up to this yet. We'd just be like, this is gonna be great, like let's just keep going. I can say that a lot of sports can relate to one another, which is when you said you were a multi-sport athlete in high school, I feel like that is how you became the cross-country runner that you are today. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I take a little bit from every single sport that I've done, and that's like molded me into like the athlete that I am today.
Yeah. So one last question that I have, I ask this to every guest. Obviously, you know the name of our show is Play Like a Girl. What do you think it means to play like a girl, and why is it so important for everybody to understand?
I think that the most important thing and the first thing that comes to my mind is just the resilience that you have. I feel like it's so much easier for guys in athletics because obviously most of the time a guy's going to be a lot bulkier. He's going to have a lot less to prove. I feel like guys have as much mental aspect where they're like, oh, I feel like I have so much to prove. I feel like everybody's judging me. I feel like this, and that. I feel like girls automatically think that they just have so much more pressure on themselves, and I feel like the second that anything goes wrong, so like for me getting injured, I was like, yep, that's it, like that's exactly what it is, like I just like shouldn't be here, like nobody thinks that I deserve to be here type of thing. But I feel like also with every single girl that has a story like that, saying like, oh, I got knocked down here, like I felt like I didn't deserve to be here, then they also have that comeback story of like, this is why I deserve to be there. So I feel like just that resilience.
Honestly, and it's always the comeback stories that are the best stories. So thank you so much for being on our show, Lizzie. I had an amazing time talking to you. Thank you for sharing your story with us. All right. So have a great night, and hopefully we'll have you on the show again.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye. All right. So that was Lizzie Melvin. She was such a great guest. I loved talking to her. Make sure you guys tune in to episode 19 of Play Like a Girl next week because you're going to have a little bit of a surprise. And as you know, this is the podcast Play Like a Girl for the girls. Bye.